Welcome in, my friends. Happy Friday. We are towards the end of May. You're on the Diane McClay Show on the Transformation Talk Radio Network and the Cornelia Stephanie Media Group. I'm so grateful that you made the decision to spend the next hour with us today. My guest today is one of my friends, one of my mentors, somebody who inspires my life on a weekly basis. He is the kindest, most integrity-centric, diversely experienced individuals I know. Former wheelchair athlete and inductee into the National Hall of Fame for people with disabilities. P.J. Dixon is considered one of the world's leading authorities on overcoming obstacles, and he's currently authoring his next book, Don't Give Up, Get Up. He's an international speaker, success strategist, author, adventurer, watercolorist, acrylic painter, former wheelchair athlete, current martial arts instructor, 10th degree black belt, and he lives a compassionate and value-driven life. And he believes and teaches from the three tenets of peace, love, and persistence through his unique art form, art. PJ, my friend, once again, I'm so happy to have you here. Thank you for saying yes, and thank you for being part of the show today.
It's an honor to be here with you. I love you so much, and it's so much fun for me to spend time with you and talk about like deep subjects. It's crazy how fun it is for you and I to really like delve into that and let our tickle our minds a little bit.
Well, and that's exactly right. I mean, you and I, man, we need like a 15-hour show for all of the
Word.
things one inspiration comes from another. We both feel like we author inspiration into each other's lives. We shepherd it into the lives of other people, and we curate and cultivate it within our own lives. And I'm so happy to be able to express that on air on the Transformation Talk Network. Really it's about changing lives 1 second, 1 minute, 1 day, 1 hour at a time. And in our last show, we talked a lot about, we teased out the concept of saying yes to yourself. So talk a little bit, just give a quick intro and tell people like, what are some ways that you say yes to yourself? And then we'll kind of kick off our conversation about how to say no to others.
Okay. Well, I think it's really important because it's hard to talk about one without the other. So if I start by talking about yes, I want to just simply say this, that often saying yes is super duper easy, except to yourself, right? And notice how Di sort of introduced it. She asked me to say, how do I say yes to myself, right? Because it's easy to say yes to somebody else if we want to say yes, but it's hard to say yes sometimes to ourselves. So how do I say yes to myself? I travel whenever I can, anytime I get the opportunity, if I can afford it, whether it's time or money, or I've got somebody on the other end to help me physically because I'm a little guy in a wheelchair. I'll say yes virtually anytime, virtually anywhere. I'm still waiting for some of my friends to say, let's go back to Mexico City. And I just jump on a plane and go for the weekend. I say yes when it comes time for an opportunity to go outside. I say yes when it comes time to spend, or an opportunity arises to spend time with friends or family. I just want to say yes to life because there's so much. Like, I love to dine out. I love to travel. I love languages. I love different religions. I want to see different sights, hear different sounds, smell different smells, hear different smell. Did I say hear different smells? You know what I mean.
You know what? If you're that in tune, Buddha could tell you that you could hear different smells, right?
I've got synesthesia. That's amazing. I sometimes think it would be cool to have synesthesia, but also people that have synesthesia sometimes say that it's a little difficult. But the answer is, how do I say yes to myself? Anytime that I feel something inside of me that seems like it feels like it could be fun or exciting or adventurous or interesting or curious, or filled with wonder, if I get the opportunity to say yes, I'm going to, because saying yes is an opportunity to enrich our lives and make every moment that we're spending here delicious. Like, I mean, your background is a picture that you've taken that's only about 30 minutes from you, and you hike and are on the water probably 4 or 5 times a week. And
That's
that's
the
same
hard
thing,
part
right?
about, I do, and that's the hard part about being an entrepreneur, because I want to say yes to all those delicious things all
Yeah.
the time, and then I kind of have to figure out a way to put structure in my life so that I'm not playing all the time, and I actually put energy into moving the business forward. But it's, for me,
But
it's
even
about,
that, but even that is like you're saying yes to structure,
right.
right? Because what I hear you saying is, a willing exchange of one thing you want for something that you want more, maybe in that moment, right? And so, so many times people think that a yes or a no means sacrifice. What if we shift that from sacrifice to just an idea of a willing exchange?
Yeah, and I want to let that pause for a minute because one of the things that's showing up is the shifting. And you and I have been working on this project for a while. You know, we're calling it the power of perspective, but the per- the ability to shift the lens through which you see.
Mm,
One of the ways to do that is through language. So if
mm,
you use the word sacrifice, that
mm,
that denotes pain, loss, suffering, attachment. But if you change the language, you automatically change your perspective because now you're saying there's a willing exchange. When I go to the supermarket, there's a willing exchange. I give somebody money, I get the food I need to make my dinner. That is a willing exchange. There's no
mm,
sacrifice involved in going to the grocery store, right? If I want to go get ice cream, there's a willing exchange for money I've worked hard to earn for a thing that I want, and there's no pain or suffering except for maybe standing in a checkout line on a Friday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon,
mm.
right?
Right.
So I love every time you and I connect,
Mhm.
there's always an invitation to shift the perspective.
Yeah.
There's always an opportunity to say yes to something that's slightly different. And even just being, my two favorite questions are what if and why not,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
if you just said, what's possible? What if I thought of it differently?
Mhm.
What if I entertain play when I plan my weekend? Jessica, our producer, was just telling us
Mhm.
that she's planning out her play for her weekend for the summers. That tells me that there's a value that makes her happy, that makes her feel balanced, content, complete, whole, ecstatic, connected.
Yeah.
And she's prioritizing that. And that's a different perspective rather than, oh, it's Friday. What am I going to do now?
But and then also on top of that is because she's prioritizing that, she's nurturing her own mind, body, and soul. And when she does that, now she's got more energy, more life, more vibrancy, more patience, more kindness, more compassion, more gentleness to be able to share with somebody else. Often what happens is we say yes to everybody else, which means consequently we say no to ourselves, which means that we exhaust ourselves. We don't have enough for somebody else. And so I think it's really important for us to realize that saying yes also means saying no. And so when we say yes to ourselves, we're saying no from distractions, we're saying no to exhaustion, we're saying no to um, overwork. The important piece is that, excuse me, the important piece is that we're saying yes to the things that are going to nurture us. And then when we say yes to the things that enrich our lives, almost inevitably it makes the rest of the world better because it inspires other people to also say yes. And it gives us that energy and that vibrancy to be able to share with others. For example, just think about this, a mother who is nursing her baby, her breast dries up with milk if she doesn't feed herself, right? And so she has to physically nurture herself. She has to put food inside of her body so the body can still produce breast milk for the baby. And so if you're in any kind of relationship, whether it's work, romantic, personal, familial, friends, it doesn't matter. If you're in any kind of relationship and you want that relationship to be healthy, the more you nurture yourself, the more you'll be able to nurture that relationship. And it doesn't seem like that at the time. Sometimes when we're saying yes to ourselves, sometimes it seems like what we're doing is saying no to the other people, but what we're really doing is saying not right now to them, but as soon as I get, nurtured and feel better and healthier and good, I'll come back and I've got some time and energy and effort and love that I can share with you. For example, yesterday you sent me a text message, right? And you said, ooh, just feeling a little exhausted or overwhelmed or whatever the words were that you said. And then I texted you and I said, hey, do you want to jump on a call later? And you're like, nope, took a nap. I'm good. Now I'm fine. So you just needed to let your body power down, take a nap, and then, okay, now I can deal with normal life. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's one of the things I love about you is that there's always this super generous feeling that you make yourself available to anybody at any time. You know, your belief is that everybody deserves a friend and everybody deserves to be loved. And you are that person who can provide that to everybody in the world. And what was really beautiful about you stepping into that role of, hey, can I shoulder some of your burden? Can I help you release some of that pressure? Is that there was this pure sense of love and generosity, but you also get fed by being able to serve other people in that capacity. And so now I want to shift that a little bit because I too am a service to other individuals. So one of the traps can be is that we can give to other people too much. We
At
can
our own expense, right?
at our own expense, even though we feel full when we provide for other people. Do you want to speak a little bit about the balance of that and some of the things you've learned in your life or what you speak to when you're on stage?
Yeah, I think that you've already really said it. It's about that balance. It's about, how am I feeling? Am I feeling exhausted? And I have to say, no, not this time, because I need to rekindle my own inner flame. Um, and I think really, give me a sec. I want to let it come through me instead of from me. I feel like there's something that wants to be said differently than what I was going to say. So the sense is that I'll use me for example. I love to be of service. I love to speak from stage. People say to me, don't you get exhausted like it's speaking all day and working with clients all day, or speaking on stage for that long, or working with clients, or coaching or training for that length of time? I'm like, no, I get fired up. I get excited because that's part of who I am. I'm that extroverted kind of person most of the time, where the more I can actually be involved with other people, the more I feel energized and vibrant because I'm pouring into them, and it naturally comes back and fills me up. It's like going to the gym, right? If you go to the gym, you might be tired and exhausted. And when you work out, you might come out tired, and a different kind of exhausted, but there'll be an internal energy inside of you. Even if like you're still tired, there's still a vibrancy and energy with inside of your body because what you put out has come back to you. That's the law in the nature of the universe, right? We talk about karma. Karma is this idea of what you put out will come back. And so and even Chief Seattle of the Northwestern Indian tribes said, what you do to the web, meaning the web of life, what you do to the web, you do to yourself. So the energy and the actions that you take will ripple out and eventually come back to you, sometimes a little quicker, like in the case of going to the gym. And so I get amped up when I serve people, but there does come a time when we need to say, hey, I need a downtime. And usually that comes from, or usually that'll come in subtle ways at first. Maybe you'll be tired, maybe you'll be sleepy, maybe somebody needs something and you sort of go, right? That's like, okay, I'll do it, but I really wish I didn't have to right now. That just simply is saying, I need to refill myself. I need to refill my own cup. I need to take some time for me. So I think you asked me about strategies, and I didn't give you strategies yet. I just
That's okay, but I
got
want to.
excited.
You just no. That's perfect. This is why I love our conversations because you and I could have a perfectly filled out, complete outline, and we would stray from it all over the place. And there's beautiful nuggets that come from that. What I'm hearing you say is there's really actually a place of awareness, which is actually one of the first steps of your form of
Yeah,
art
yeah, yeah. Good
awareness,
point. Good point. Yeah.
right? Awareness,
Yeah.
responsibility, technique, and we're going to
Yes.
kind of dive into that. But what I'm really hearing you say is when someone asks you to do something for them and your first response is to take a really deep breath in and then sigh to yourself, and then the next thought is I really don't want to,
Yeah.
or I feel obligated that I should.
Yeah.
That is like that's like the binging of the car door when you leave your, the bing, 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 and you're like, oh, I'm going to shut my car door, and then after you shut your car door, you realize your keys are in the ignition, right?
Yeah.
That sigh, that heaviness, that sense of regret or obligation is literally your body and the universe working in harmony to give you an indicator that you need to add the words for now or not now at the end of whatever you say next.
Yeah.
I'd really like to, but right now I can't.
Yeah.
Right. And too many of us blow through those warning signs. We ignore the sigh, we ignore the heaviness in our chest, we ignore that little voice that says, "Really, now I just don't have it in me, but okay, I'll say yes again."
Mhm.
So reflect back to me a little bit. Am I right on awareness? And then how does the R and the T come into that if we recognize that as something that could be helpful to us?
So there's really a whole lot of what you're saying, and we can unpack this for hours. Let me start by saying something that's not directly related to what you're saying, but sort of the opposite angle of what I was saying, and then let me come and address what you said. So I was talking about the extrovert, right? The introvert who says yes to themselves will say yes to the few things that they might want to do out and about with other people. But then the introvert who says yes to themselves will also probably go home pretty quick, um, and spend a little quiet time by themselves and feel perfectly comfortable just sitting and reading a book or petting their cat or watching Netflix or whatever it is that they feel like they want to do. But they're happy being at their own place again. And so it's important to recognize that when they say yes, they do a side too. They go, oh, whew, okay.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm whole again. I feel like I'm back in my space again. I don't feel like I'm having to put out all this excess energy. So I like to put out the energy because I like what I get back. And an introvert might like to just spend some quieter time by themselves and then go out a little bit on occasion and spend time with the right people doing the right activities that gives them just enough input that they can then feel, okay, that was good. I'm ready to go home. So not everybody is the same. Okay. So then to reference a little bit more of what you were saying about the awareness, I think that's critical. I wasn't even thinking about art. Art is sort of not really I guess I'll say philosophy, but it's the practice that the brain goes through every moment for every decision. Really, virtually, it's constantly cycling through ART, ART, ART. So I like to say that we're all artists. We're all creators of our own environment, creators of our own relationships, creators of our own life, good or bad. I don't always make the best decisions, but A stands for awareness, R stands for responsibility, T stands for technique or taking action, right? So what's the technique or action you're going to take, or not take? What are you going to be responsible, or are you going to be reactionary? And before that is awareness. Are you going to practice awareness, or are you not going to be aware? So in Di's case, the example of the car door going bing or the car going bing, bing, bing. You're not aware the moment you shut that door until you hear it shut. And then all of a sudden the awareness turns on and you're like, oh, I just shot my keys in the door. You're aware, but you're aware at almost a subconscious level. Not quite subconscious, but definitely sub to the conscious level. But the problem is, what were you actually aware of in that moment? Not the present moment. Your mind was probably thinking about bringing the groceries into the house, or what you had to get in the grocery store, or what you were going to say to this person, or that phone call that you have to make later. You left the present moment. And so often when we say yes and no, what we're doing is we're leaving the present moment. We're projecting forward with concern for what somebody else might think or say if we say no right now. Or in the case of saying yes, sometimes people want you to say no, but inside you want to say yes, right? So if you're thinking about, if let's say you're an introvert and you say, yes, I'll go to the party, but now you want to say, yes, I'm ready to go home, but your partner wants to stay at the party, now you're struggling because you know that if you say, hey, I'm going to go, everybody in the party is going to be upset that you're leaving. And so now you're projecting into the future about the conflict and the problems that are going on. So where is your awareness? It's not present. And because it's not present, it's out there in the future. Because it's out there in the future, you're letting other people's opinions influence what the real truth is inside of you, instead of saying, hold on, let me come back to right now. How am I really feeling and or thinking? What is my mind thinking or saying to me? What am I hearing in my head? What am I feeling inside of my body? And then if the answer is, I just want to go, or I want to do this instead, or I want to do that, the truth is inside of you. But the question is, are you going to follow that truth? Or are you going to let the outside influences, because of your own value system, change what your decision is? Because everything, let me just say this, I'll wrap with this. Every decision that we make is going to be based on our values. Every yes, every no is going to be based on your values. I will say yes sometimes when I really want to say no because I'm a people pleaser. And what I really want to say is, that's not really what I want to do. But yes, I feel like I should say that. I feel obligated to say yes. I feel obligated to do this. And I don't really want to, right? So, for example, I almost reached out to somebody earlier this morning to say, hey, let's hang out tonight. And then I thought, no, because this particular person won't want to hang out. They'll want to actually just get on a phone call. I don't want to get on a phone call with them. I'd be happy to spend time with them, but I don't want to just get on the phone and just talk, blah, blah. It's just not what I wanted to do with this particular person. So I decided to say no, even though I haven't talked to them in a while. And I know they're waiting for me to call them, just sort of the nature of where they are in their relationship with me right now. But I checked in with myself and I was like, that's it doesn't, that's not what I want. So if I put that offer out there and they want to change the offer, now I'm stuck with either saying, no, I don't want to do that. And the person feels, they might feel bad and then I feel bad, or saying yes when I really want to say, no, that's not interesting to me. So sometimes we just avoid it, right? I'm taking responsibility for how I'm going to feel. And so the technique for me is, well, maybe I just won't call this person, or instead I'll call this person on my time, chat with them for a little bit, and then say, hey, when I feel like I'm ready to go, then say, hey, it's been great talking to you. I love you a ton. Got to go. Got some other things that I want to do. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I want to sew this together a little bit.
Go to it.
No, it's like I love talking to you because my brain gets fired up and goes all over. But while you were talking, and
Yes.
I keyed in on the "Are you being present?" Right,
Yes.
and I
Yes.
found myself like I'm listening and I want to jump in and respond, but that's not me actually being fully present with you. So I want to sew this together a little bit and sort of kind of come back to a couple of things that I heard you say.
Yes.
One, this is why art is so important. It's why we as artists of our own lives
Yes.
really have to be aware
Yeah.
of what do we need or what do we want,
Yes.
right? Do it, to your example, do I really want to talk to somebody, or do I just want to hang out?
Yes.
Two different things.
Yes.
When I go to nature, for me, there's a very big difference between touching the land
Yeah.
and going for a hike.
Yeah.
Now, by 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 default, as soon as my feet get out of the car and I'm on the trail, I'm technically touching the land. But for me, touching the land means being observant, looking at the flowers, watching the little ant carry a piece of crumb along the log to wherever it's going, getting curious about the surroundings, maybe intentionally looking up the name of a wildflower I haven't seen before. Sometimes it's just sitting next to a cedar tree and smelling the incense of the cedar and just allowing myself to really be absorbed by my surroundings and not really worrying about how far is it to the end of the trail or the waterfall or the next snack break kind of thing. But hiking is very active. I'm taking all of those things in when I'm actively hiking, but now the intent, and you and I've talked about this before, the intent now is physical activity, getting to a viewpoint, seeing the reward, sharing the experience with a friend. I'm taking good pictures that can feed my social feed. They're two very distinct activities, and to me, this is sewing it together. Is my awareness is what is my intent going into that activity, and this metaphor can be applied to anything we have in our life. What is the outcome that I want? How do I get it? And how do I fine tune the experience as I'm in it in order to accommodate the expectation? Right. So
And
if I
that really
want
ties into art.
it does. And that's why I'm saying it, because art is awareness. You and I, I've said before that my goal on the Choice and Courage Company and with Diane and P.J coaching is I want to change the binary concept of decision making and choices. Too often we're programmed to believe it's a right choice or a wrong choice, a good choice or a bad choice. Well, what if we just said it's a choice, and then once we make a choice, we're going to be diligent about becoming aware of how it makes us feel. Does it make me feel good or not? Yes or no? You're going to know that. And tying it into the yes or no conversation. If it makes you feel good, then say yes to yourself. It rained here a week ago, and on one of the trails, I was leading a group of people, and they were all enthralled with the beauty of the area. And just the little kid in me was like, I have to go jump in that mud puddle. Like, it's gooey, it's wet, it's going to splash. I need to let people know that if they're around me, this is what I'm going to do, because they may not want to get as muddy as me. But there was this moment where I said, I have to say yes, like literally running, taking a leap, and landing feet first in this mud puddle and having mud splash up on my legs, because that made me feel good. That's the essence of joy for me, right? So everybody has that type of thing in their life that they know brings them pure joy, pure happiness, pure peace, balance, integrity, all of those good things that make us feel like we're moving forward in our life. And then we also have the ability to have awareness when we don't have those things in our life, right? That sigh that, oh, I don't want to do this. I feel obligated. But this is where art comes in, because now once I'm aware, I have a responsibility to myself to take action, right? And you can never not be aware of something once you become aware of it. You can't undo that, right? So feed into this. Tell me what this is bringing up for you.
So first of all, as adventurous as I am, I do not want to get muddy. So I'm not jumping in a puddle with you. Although I will love watching you jump into a puddle. And part of me inside says, if I was able-bodied, I might run and jump into that puddle just to do it once, right? But then my mind goes back to the time that Calvin and Hobbes were jumping around in puddles. And Calvin's underwear got kind of wet and creeped up in a part that didn't feel super comfortable for him. But what's coming up for me is keying in on just two words that you said. You said, what if it's just a decision and it's not right or wrong? Because I look at it from the exact same perspective. What if yes or no for you isn't good or bad? What if it's not right or wrong? What if it's honest or dishonest? And what if it's not just honest? It's out of word. What if it's lovingly honest or dishonest? Who are you? What kind of value do you hold for yourself? Do you value honesty? Do you value truth? Do you value trustworthiness? And if you do, and you want that from other people, do you also want to be that kind of person for other people? If that's the case, don't think about yes or no as right or wrong, good or bad, but think about it as, am I being lovingly honest or am I being dishonest? And if I'm being dishonest, ooh, even for me saying that makes my face cringe and makes me go, oh, I don't really like that. That's not how I want to feel. I don't want to say that. I don't want to be dishonest. So even this morning, right? And my mom's probably listening to this right now. Even this morning, my mom said, hey, a cousin of hers wants to make something for me. And she's trying to be helpful and, kind and caring, and help me put something on my chair that might like soften some of the pressure on my ankles a little bit. And in my mind, I was just like, I don't like things hanging from my chair, right? It makes me, this is going to sound so weird. And my friend Luke always laughs at me when I say this, but it makes me feel disabled, right? It makes me feel like I need to have a big orange flag hanging back on the back of my chair. I don't want that. I don't want bags and stuff hanging from my chair. And, this thing would help keep my ankles, probably keep my ankles soft, but I have to say no now because A, I don't really understand what this thing is going to look like and how it's going to work. And B, I don't want somebody to make something for me that I'm not going to be able to use. It's not going to work for me. And so it makes more sense for me to come down there and say, well, let's look at the idea and the concept and see if it works. And I said no, but it wasn't an easy no, because when we think about who we're saying no to, it's easier to say no to strangers than it is to say no to people that we really care about, because there's that part of our brain that says, I don't want to be ostracized. I want to say yes because I want to stay part of the tribe. Now, if I said no just straight away, nope, not interested, right? It might have come across a little harsh, right? And that might have put my mom off, which I don't want to do. It might have made her uncomfortable because now what's she going to say? Like, well, how do I tell this other person that he said no, right? But if I say, I don't think that makes sense for me right now. Here are the reasons why. Now my mom can go back to our family member and say, hey, isn't probably going to work for PJ yet. Maybe when he comes down, we can look at that as an option, but it's not going to work for him now because of A, B, and C. So it made more sense for me to give a little bit of information about why I was saying no, but you don't have to justify your no. No is no.
I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to interrupt you right there. You don't have to justify your no. Context and options. We got to take a quick break. We're going to come right back into
All right,
that.
good.
All right. Thanks very much. Diane McClay Show. Come right back. We're going to talk about saying yes to yourself.
Hey, everyone. Come check out this new app I'm featured in. You're going to look for KS Media Group app in the App Store. Download it, launch and create your free account, get the free ebook. You're going to find me under directories. Click on resources of the world's best influencers. Find me at the top of the list and take advantage of evolving your daily practice, cultivating deep inner peace, growing in love with my YouTube channels, and all the ways that you can connect with me now on social media and other ways as well. There's also a long list of live podcasts there that are listed under the directories to help you to live your best life now. Go and hurry, get the KS Media app, go to the App Store and download it now.
Welcome back into the Diane McClay Show. It is Friday. Thank you for making the choice of being with us. And we are talking about saying yes and saying no, both to yourself and to other people. Just before the break, we were on the tangent of having options and having integrity within those options and communicating. And I want to bring our producer, Jessica, in. It's great when we get an outside perspective about the conversation that we're having. But Jessica, can you share with our listeners the observation you had about the pause and about how you have a conversation?
Yeah, you bet. So there was two things that happened for me. One was, PJ, when you literally paused yourself and said, I want to pause and I want to let this come through me instead of from me, I learned something from that, because so often we don't allow ourselves that space to do that. And, that's like that whole speak before you think thing. And then also just observing the two of you, and Diane, when you mentioned, I'm holding myself back from interrupting you and jumping in, I'm really being present and listening. I think so often in a conversation, we really aren't doing that level of listening. And you two are just making an incredible example of a powerful conversation, playing off one another, but also really hearing what the other one is saying.
So let me ask you a quick question, Jessica. What in that particular case are we saying yes to?
I think we're saying yes to the moment, I guess, is how I would say that.
Okay. Would you also agree that we're saying yes to connection?
Oh, yeah.
To the strength of the relationship?
Absolutely.
Yes to honor and respect and integrity?
You bet. 100%.
Yeah. I think those are important things in a relationship, because in those cases, we're saying yes to the relationship. We're saying yes to the connection. We're saying yes to nurturing that and strengthening that, versus yeah, what you're saying is important and great and wonderful, but I'm super excited about what I want to say and I'm going to just share because I'm saying yes to me, but consequently we can never say yes without also saying no. So if I interrupt, I'm actually saying no to the other person. No, stop talking, what I have to say is more important.
And I just want to tag in, Jessica, thanks for jumping in and reflecting that, because that's what we want to do on Transformation Talk Radio and the Cornelia Stephanie Media Group Network, right? We want to encourage people to get a takeaway that's going to directly impact their lives today. And so I want to repeat it. If you don't take a pause, then you need to. We have to pause to breathe. Like yoga, like any kind of meditation thing, they remind us to create that pause for ourselves and fall into that space that we can create and hold for ourselves and for other people. But imagine, listeners, imagine this, that if you literally took 10 seconds before you answered a question from your spouse, your boss, your coworker, your friend, your employee, like imagine how that makes the other person feel. We all want to be heard. We all want to be seen. So imagine that if you create that pause, imagine how much more powerful and dynamic and engaging your relationship with that person can be. That's point number one. when I was a ranger, I taught verbal judo. It's the art of kind of getting someone else to say yes to you, especially in a law enforcement situation. And Doc Thompson talks about the opposite of talking. Most people think it's listening, but it's 90% of the time the opposite of talking is waiting to interrupt. Right? It's because we're so busy thinking about all the things that we want to say and contribute to the conversation so that we're heard, that we don't stop and create that pause, and we don't create that opportunity to be engaged in the moment, as Jessica says, and to be creating that level of connectivity with the person that's right in front of us. And I think that's pretty critical in just about any relationship that you have.
Yeah, I really like what that person said, that the opposite of talking is just waiting to be able to talk. And so that to me would say that listening then is actually a complement to talking, right? And talking is then also the complement to listening, right? So for example, I had a friend of mine call me yesterday in the afternoon, and she said, I got a text message from a friend of mine, and I wanted to talk with you about it because it's been bothering me all day long. And this particular person doesn't reach out and ask for help almost ever. And when she called me back today, she called me back and she was in tears. And she said, first of all, I never cry. And she said, your message back to me this morning made me cry. And she said, thank you, because I felt safe with you, because I felt listened to.
Yeah.
Which means that somebody who doesn't like to reach out and say, hey, I'm struggling, felt there was a compliment to them talking. So when we actually practice listening, what we're doing is we're acting as the complement for talking. And so that means that that person wants to hear you, right? And I always say that listening is the single most important piece in communication, because I can send you a message 1,000 different ways without ever saying a single word, right? I can do this. Hold on, watch. Wave my little hand, right? Be like, and people are like, why is that little guy so excited to see me? I could, if you can see visually, right? I'm like, giving you the eyes. People are like, okay, great, weirdo, right? But I'm not saying anything. Or I could frown my face and like, right? And I'm not saying anything, but I'm frowning my face. So I'm still saying something. I can send you a message 1,000 different ways without speaking a single word, but there's only one way I'm ever truly going to understand you, and that's to listen. And sometimes listening requires additional questions and for clarification, because we really want to understand. And in that particular case, what you're saying is, yes, I want to understand you, versus no, I get it, I understand what you're saying, fine, I'm just saying no, I don't care what you have to say. And it's interesting that this conversation shifted slightly to communication, but what is yes and no but communication, right? Somebody asks if you want to do something and you say yes or you say no, but there's communication that happens before that, the communication that's in the awareness of your own body, communication that's in the awareness of your own mind. Are you actually listening to self? Are you actually listening to who you are and what you want, not what you fear other people want from you or for you, but what is it that you need and want? And then is there sometimes an ability to collaborate, not compromise, but collaborate? Because I don't believe healthy relationships are built on compromise. I believe that healthy relationships are built on collaboration. And that includes the collaboration that you have with your own mind, your own body, your own spirit, your own soul.
As you were saying it, it was odd. This is how connected you and I are. I was literally just going to say, we're talking about listening to the self. We're talking about bringing awareness into what the mind, the soul, and the body want. You and I talk about the difference between perspective, which is the lens through which we see, by definition, and perception is the meaning that we attach to it.
Yes.
So when we can look at meaning that our self is applying to anything, is this good for me? Is it not? Do I like this? Do I not? Am I listening? Am I not? When we can actually get into the meaning that our self and not our ego, but our soul and our heart and our mind, the full wholeness of ourselves, when we can stand in that place and receive information from that, um, our ability to hear ourselves then I believe gets translated into how we act and how we inform other people about how we want to be treated.
Mhm.
In our last show, you just said ask more questions.
Mhm.
And some people may hear that as, well, I'm in a conversation externally with another person. What are other questions I can ask them? Which is definitely beneficial.
Mhm.
I don't understand this project. Can you give me some more information? I don't understand the directions. What is it you need from me? What is the deadline? When do you expect this? How much of a priority is this? Is there room for me to brainstorm ideas, or is this fixed? Right.
Mhm.
So asking questions, this is another technique that you
Mhm.
and I've talked about, a perspective,
Yes.
is, are you making statements
Mhm.
or are you asking questions?
Yes.
And then if you ask questions, what are the types of questions you're asking? And then again, are you asking them of yourself in addition to the other people in the relationship or the conversation? And are you asking them of yourself first? So some questions that you mentioned on our last show, the kind of the art of being present. Do I like how I'm feeling right now?
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
What would I rather feel instead? If
Mhm.
the answer is no, we're talking about saying yes, we're talking about saying no. So,
Mhm.
do I like how I'm feeling right now? Yes, I do. Then you can open up some more questions. What can I keep doing? How can I share this with other people? If the answer is no, and this is where the binary piece actually is really beautiful, because we know how to say no to things we don't like.
Mhm.
I mean,
Sometimes.
people will say, I don't know how to say no. But if I were to say, do you like eating raw meat? You would say,
Wow.
no.
Is it
Well,
sushi
right. There's a
or
good question.
sashimi?
Right. But after you ask the additional questions, how would I rather feel instead? This is where kind of you and I cross over and we cross pollinate, because empowering your life is engaging your choice, right? What is the choice that I'm going to make with the information that I have?
Mhm.
And then for you, art, it's always circular. Awareness is part of responsibility. Responsibility is part of technique. Technique is part of awareness. It's not a circle. It's kind of like a spiral where everything is always happening at the same time.
Yes.
But are we stopping and creating the pause, as Jessica said?
Mhm.
Are we inviting the opportunity to
Mhm.
create questions? And then are we looking for the options that those questions can create?
Yes.
Feed me. Tell me what's coming in on you.
Okay, give me a sec. Because I wanted to listen to what you said one more time in my head, but I have something that wants to be said. So, um, options is the word that I'm sticking with right now. Um, okay, so I'm gonna use options as the link to what wants to be said. Um, the universe is built on contrast. We don't have up without down, in without out, light without dark. Okay. So that means that every moment, leading back to your choice, because choice is a big thing for you, it's a big thing for me too. Um, and that's, choice goes back to yes. Yes, I want to do something, or no, I don't want to do something. It's a choice. Everything is built on choice, everything is built on contrast. And when we have an option, we can say, yes, I want it, or no, I don't want it. Yes, I'd love to have that again. No, I never want to do that again or feel that again. Right. So the moment we make a choice, the moment we make a choice, we have an experience. When we have an experience, it's followed by an assessment. Do I like it? Do I not like it? Do I want it again? Do I never want it again? And then once that assessment occurs, immediately there's another option. There's another binary. There's another yes or no. Do I like it? Do I not like it? Do I want it? Do I not want it? And so it doesn't mean that there aren't gray tones in here, where we can absolutely look at the gray tones and go, okay, I sort of want it, but I want it like this and not like that. It's sort of like going to a restaurant and saying, hey, can I have it with this on it instead of that? Sure. Right. So I'm still saying yes, but I'm saying yes if I can have it this way. But otherwise, I'm saying, well, probably not. Let me look at another choice, another option. And so the point is that there's never a moment where choice doesn't occur. And if you're living from a space of obligation where you're saying yes or no to other people, um, then you're giving up your choice sometimes because, well, you're not giving up your choice, but it might feel like it because you're operating out of obligation. but the choice has already been made at the values level where you say, I have to say yes because I don't, because I'm a people pleaser, or I have to say yes because I'm afraid that, like, I don't like conflict. My value is peaceful, safe relationships. And so because my value is peaceful, safe relationships, I make an effort to always be kind and nice to people. But I also recognize that if I say no to this person, then probably our relationship in that next moment is not going to be peaceful and safe. They're probably going to get upset. There's probably going to be conflict, and that's going to make me uncomfortable. Oh, I can feel my tension, the tension in my feet. I can't even move my feet. I can feel tension in my feet, my little toes, and my back, and my shoulders. Look, my shoulders went up, right? My face is all squishy and squishy because that's a real word. Um, but I'm doing that not because I'm putting something on, but because I was watching, I was aware of what was going on inside of my body, that I was like, I was talking myself into this. I want to say no, but I'm gonna have to say yes. And oh God, I just don't want to say yes. But if I say yes, then I sort of maintain my value, which is that safe, peaceful relationship. So that's why you make a decision that you don't want to, that's against what you consciously want. You make a decision counter to what you consciously want because the value is driving that decision for you. So if you need to make a different decision to actually find health and happiness, we have to look at your values. We have to reorder the values and reorder their level of importance.
Yes, and
Yes, and I love it.
you have to know what your values are to begin with.
Can I get an amen up in her?
Amen. Like if you don't know what your values are to begin with,
yes,
you can't assess them, have the experience with them, and then have the option of reprioritizing them. If one could say, I have a value of being trustworthy.
Sure.
Okay, but that's really vague and really broad. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
I value that my name is important. Okay, well, what really does that mean?
Yes.
And this is kind of where that 5 levels of why.
Yes.
Why is it important for me that trust is important? Answer that question, and then you get another question, and you put why right after that. And usually at the 3rd or 4th level, most counselors or therapists will tell you that that's when the work starts. Right? The first one is easy. The second one is pretty easy. The third one starts to feel a little bit in depth and difficult. And at level 4 and 5 of the why is really where the meat of the sandwich is, so to speak.
Can I jump in just real quick, just for
yeah, of course.
just forgive me, just a slight modification. So why can sometimes be a dangerous question, right? So I might say, oh, why does this person always treat me like this? Why am I always the one who struggles? Why is this happening to me? Eek, right? So instead, we might change that on occasion, not suggesting that what you're saying is wrong, but that there might be a slight modification for, okay, what's the benefit for me here? Or what's the knowledge here? Or what's the information that I can get here? Or for what purpose? Okay, so I'm making this decision for what purpose? Or what's the benefit? Or what's the intention? Right? And so why is intended to be the same thing, but why can at some points in our life be dangerous? So if you're saying something like, why is this always happening to me? Versus, okay, what can I learn from this? Or what are the options that I have to change my current situation or state? Because you can even hear in the difference of the tone of voice, oh, why is this happening to me? It sounds very disempowered versus, okay, what are my options and choices? It sounds very empowered. And there's a difference. I'm not putting that on. I'm not making that up. These are authentic sounds that come out of my face. I just like to say things come out of my face, that come out of my mouth like that, that come out of my chest. And when I hear that, then I go, oh, cool, let's talk about that because it's relevant, because I'm really feeling it so that you can experience it as the audience. I'm sorry to interrupt you, please forgive me, but I really wanted to add the additional option for what is the benefit here? For what purpose? For what intention? What's the value that this is bringing me? Because that's still this 5 to 7 layers of why. It's still getting to the same purpose. But if you get stuck on why, use what as an alternative?
You never have to apologize for interrupting me, because usually when you do, what happens is in real time, and I coined the phrase real time awareness, in real time, you've just shown me that I'm using a phrase that I think it means something, and yet it sounds something different to someone else. You and I are both in the business of transformation. So if we're not aware of language that we use that starts to lose its efficacy or of its importance, you never have to apologize for interrupting me, because usually when you do, you have this really brilliant, poignant thing that comes into my awareness at real time speed. And you're right, there's a negativity to why. And the brain likes to solve problems, but if it's a problem that, like, why is this happening to me, that creates a downward spiral because the brain doesn't have an answer. It's
Or the
why I
answer is yucky. Why
right,
does this always happen to me? Well, because you suck, because you don't try,
right,
because you
right.
don't put in any effort. Oh, I feel so bad about myself.
But
Eek.
just changing the language to what is the benefit of this, we'll either know, okay, there is none, and then we can give ourselves permission to move on, or we can say, wow, this, I just realized that I'm using a word that's a trigger for someone else, and I didn't realize it. So my point is like, folks, PJ apologized to me for interrupting me, because that's actually politically correct to do, right? We apologize. But PJ and I have this really beautiful relationship where we just say, I didn't mean to interrupt, I just got so excited, because the downloads happen so quickly between the two of us that it actually feeds our conversations and allows us to change our perspective literally by the second. So I think I'm going to change that. I think I'm going to say, what are the benefits? Because when you say, I like to say, I would rather find solutions than solve problems, right? Because, which is why the questions what if and why not are important to me. If you're trying to find solutions, the brain is given permission to throw anything out against the whiteboard. That's what brainstorming is about. Options, create energy creates solutions, and then we can narrow them down. But when we ask a very single focused question like why, the brain may not know why, or quite honestly, the brain may have a story about why, and it just leads us down that negative path.
Yeah.
So my point is that real-time awareness creates the opportunity to change your perspective immediately. And then if you change the language, you change the meaning. And now suddenly we're having a completely different conversation. We're not beating ourselves up because we didn't do it the right way.
You said something that was really cool that I want everybody to hear again, and you only half explained it. You said, I like to find solutions versus solve problems. And when you said solve solution or find solutions, you're like, I can throw all this stuff up on the whiteboard. I can brainstorm all of these ideas, and which means that I'm not constrained. I can go in all these different directions to find solutions that may be solutions to multiple contraindicators for a happy life, right? Or easier said, for problems that you're having. Okay. But if you solve a problem, what do you focus on? The problem, right? Like, well, how do I solve this problem? Well, okay, well, what's the problem? Well, here's the problem. How do I solve it? I don't know how I solve it, right? Versus, okay, what are some solutions that might create what I want, right? And so when I say, well, what are some of the solutions? I'm finding solutions. It links to what I want. How do I solve the problem? Looks at the problem. And so the question is, where do you want to look? Do you want to look at the problem? Or do you want to look at the solution out there, over there? Because there are lots of options when we start to explore solutions.
I love it. Where do you want to look? Like, do you want to focus on the problem, or do you want to focus on the solution? One of my favorite movies, and we're going to have to wrap this up in a little bit, but it's why you have to come on again. But one of my favorite movies is Apollo 13. Tom Hanks, everybody who's lived in that era understands the concept of the astronauts, something failing in the landing module and they have to get home. And my favorite scene is when they basically have to make a square air filter fit a round hole using only the things the astronauts have in the space capsule. Yeah. And my favorite scene is when they bring this box of junk, right? It's a sock, it's duct tape, it's a binder. And they literally say, so the problem is we don't have enough oxygen in the system. And the problem is our system is broken. We can't get them on the moon and we can't bring them home. Yeah. But the scientists all said, how do we solve it? Yes. Right. So now anything is on the board, and they literally said, we have to make this, meaning the square filter, out of this, meaning the box of junk, in order to get this. Yes. Right. And that meant that everybody in the room had permission to literally try anything. And the only way, and then they proved it, they started testing it on the ground with the backup scientists. So to me, that's a really great metaphor for what solution do I want to generate? Because it gets me closer to what I want. What did they want? They wanted to bring their astronauts home safely.
First of all, they wanted their astronauts to be able to breathe. We'll worry
Right.
about getting them home secondarily. Let's do things prioritized in this particular case.
Right. So let me just do a shout out to our audience. If you're liking this conversation and you find that you say yes to a lot of other people, but you don't really want to, if you find that you want to say no more confidently or more no often, I'm going to encourage you to look up PJ. pjswisdom.com is his website. So pjswisdom.com is the best way to reach him and get a hold of him. He's a speaker, he's an author, he's a motivator, he's an incredible listener. PJ, I know that you seek out people to do keynote speeches with. Tell people in the last minute how you can help them change their lives and how they can work with you if that's what they want.
Well, that's really kind of you. Thank you. If we make it really simple, I seek to help you overcome the obstacles that are separating you from what you really want to do or be. And that's really pretty easy to do when we start understanding what you want. So this goes back to what you want to look at. Do you want to look at the problems, or do you want to look at finding solutions? So I help people find solutions that overcome obstacles that historically have held them back from getting what they want.
Excellent. And I endorse PJ. He's been a gift in my life. He has helped me see things differently in business and relationships, love, peace, and persistence. If you get anything out of this show today, is that it's okay to say yes to you, and it's okay to say no to others, and there's always an option.
And that depends on where you're looking, right? That depends on where you're looking. Are you looking outside of what other people are going to say, and that's forcing the yes or no out of you? Or are you looking inside at what you want to say?
Right.
So again, it comes back to that one thing. What's your awareness on? Them or deep true self?
Right. And close us out with your signature quote. Life is not about having the courage.
Okay. Life is not about having the courage or the endurance to push through when things get difficult, but instead to let go of or release everything making it difficult.
And change is inevitable. Transformation is a choice. I'm Diane McClay on the Transformation Talk Radio Network. Thanks for choosing us. Engage your life and empower your choice. Have a great Friday.
Bye.